Ah, hello, Lynn Spencer.
Hello. How come? Oh, there you are on the screen. I'd like to see you in that background.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Yeah. So,
Sparkling water, not champagne.
oh, I know. Plain tap water.
Lynn, I just read your biography and I went to your the website for your company. Very impressive.
Oh, thank you.
Very.
Wow.
Where is Keuka College?
Yucca College is on Keuka Lake in the Finger Lakes, which is the
I
area.
know where the Pink Finger Lakes are. So it's in upstate New York.
Yes, yes. So the Finger Lakes are sort of slightly south and east of Rochester, kind of in the middle of the state there.
Not the ones like Indian Lake and like up in the Adirondacks area.
No, no,
Further
it's
south
further west. Yeah,
or
further
further
west.
west. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they're glacial lakes, so they're named as fingers because they're long, thin lakes. And Keuka is Y-shaped.
So and where's Penyan?
It's at the head of Keuka Lake. It's at one of the branches. So it's and why Penyan? Do you want to go there too?
Sure.
It was named after the settlement groups, which were Yankees and Pennsylvanians. So
Huh,
simplicity itself, they took the first syllable of each.
I never knew that.
And while it can sound a lot like Pagnon, it's Penyan.
There's a boat manufacturer of that name, which I assume is because it's in that town.
Oh, yes, yes. It was a famous boat manufacturer. Um, I think they sort of closed down maybe 30 years ago, but
Oh, could
they
be.
Oh,
made
that's
beautiful.
right. Penyan yachts. They were very famous.
Yeah, and a beautiful little runabout called a Swift, which,
Yes. Yeah.
was a canvas covered
Mhm.
lap struck wood
Drake.
boat with a little motor on it. So
Hmm.
yeah,
That's what they were known for is, little runabouts, not
little
big.
runabouts.
Yeah.
And so I know we're just talking at this point, but I didn't learn to drive until I was 18 because I drove farm vehicles, at home. There was no need to get a license for that. And then on the lake, we would just use the boats to go around and go to the village and go to the library and go dance and stuff like that. So
What kind of farm did you have?
it was a fruit farm when I was young. We had 20 acres of raspberries, which is like being on a gold mine, I now realize. But yeah, apples, pears, raspberries, whatever.
So you grew up there and you stayed there to go to college.
Yeah, well, I went away to college, but then I went back. My mother worked there. I went free.
Where did you go away to go to college?
When I first went, I went to one of the state universities at Brockport.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. All right, you all are getting to know way too much about
Yeah.
me.
No, I told you I enjoy
Yeah.
learning things.
It's a little, really pretty part of the world too.
Yeah, it is.
Really
Did you
It's
say
very
you were
pretty.
on Cayuga Lake?
I'm sorry?
Did you say you were on Cayuga Lake?
No, Keuka. So Cayuga is where Cornell
Cornell.
and
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ithaca College. And then the next one over is Seneca. And
that,
Seneca, and
my
Dan,
daughter went to
you're the
Hobart. Yeah.
military guy. Seneca is so deep, it's 450 feet deep.
Oh,
So it was used for all kinds of sonar and submarine testing and that kind of thing. Great depths. And then the next one is Keuka. So
I once had
oh,
a
I see it. Okay.
client in the Finger Lakes. I don't remember the town. I do remember they put us up in what looked to be a castle turned into a hotel.
okay. Oh, it was Bellhurst.
That
No,
sounds right.
yeah.
Anyway, in the stairwells, they had like
Hmm.
inset water fountains or water dispensers, except they were dispensing white wine.
Well, that's the other thing that part of the world has become known for. I mean, when I was a kid, there were just three wineries, but now there's all kinds of estate wineries. Um, but yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah, it became a favorite spot of ours.
okay.
It wasn't that good wine though, so
No, it's not very good wine.
especially when you're pumping it out of like water.
Out of a water fountain, yeah, I'd say.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, it is, I don't know what time, 6:35. Oh, I should ask for volunteers. Do we have a volunteer?
You
See,
got my draft. I sent it out to everyone, but
yes,
I'm not doing it again tonight.
everyone's being quiet. How do we resolve this? There's too many people for rock, paper, scissors. Um,
Well, who hasn't done it for the longest?
I don't know. I did it last week, and Barbara did it, I believe, the week before.
And once before that too.
Finished mines yet. So you don't want to give me another one when I haven't finished the last one.
All right, Dan, do you mind?
No, I will do an even better job than I did last time.
Whoa.
Yay, thank you. Okay, so it is now probably 6:36. Yeah, and we have a quorum. So present from the Finance Committee, Bob Vanderslice, Melanie Drayton, Tim Bell, Dan McMacken, Barbara Beatty. That is all I see, unless there are more that have snuck in off to the right here. Nope. Okay, so the meeting is in order. Did everyone get a chance to read Barbara's minutes? And if so, does anyone want to make a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor? I'm going to go backwards. Barbara,
Can I vote on my own?
I don't see why not.
Thank you. I,
Take it that's an aye. Dan,
Aye.
Tim,
I'm gonna have to abstain because I didn't get a chance to read them.
okay. Melanie,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So 4 and 1 abstention. So minutes are approved.
and Tim, when you have a chance to look at them, I'll wait before I do anything official and let me know if
Okay.
you see anything, please. Thank you.
I'll do that tonight.
No rush, but thank you.
So we need to finish our recommendations. This is where we stand once I figure out how to share something in Zoom. Screen 2, I guess that's it. Yes, you can see this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Zoom is a little different than the way I'm used to having this work. So this is what anything that doesn't have a date in the vote column still needs to be approved.
What are
And
we calling this document?
what are we calling it?
Yes.
It is called FinCom Agenda 2025. I emailed it around late last week, and it's also in the Dropbox
Okay,
if you want to go look in the Dropbox.
great.
But what I think we ought to do is let's do community preservation first, since Lynn is with us, and we can be respectful of her time.
Hey, I'm in the community president, I'm in the FinCom meeting right now. Yes.
It's the easy way to do this.
I don't see fire and police. Am I missing something?
So Jeffrey, I don't know what to say.
There, this is a list of the articles, Barbara. So I don't think there's an article.
They're trying to get me in early.
Their budgets are part of the omnibus, Barbara.
Oh, okay, thank
Yeah.
you. Yep,
They'll be, yes, they'll be included here.
okay.
Also, I circulated an updated warrant today. There's been a
Yes.
few additional articles, and so some of the numbering of the articles have thus changed towards the end. For instance, CPC is, I think it was originally Article 22, it's now 24.
Okay.
There was an addition of two veterans exemption articles that I sent around. And the Board of Selectmen approved them last night. And then there's another one in regards to abandoning an easement, a drainage easement in town.
Okay, so we've added a 22 and a 23
Mm.
and a 26. Can you, just so I know, can you also see this, my email here?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So I need to just keep that in mind. So what did we added 2 here? So we added a 21 and a 22. So this one, community preservation is now 23.
No, so we already had an Article 21. That's the climate change preparedness, the
All right,
short
so
beat.
22,
Yep.
23.
Now
This
community
is
preservation is 24.
25.
And then there's a new Article 26. That is about abandoning a drainage easement.
Why would we want to do that, Allison? Why wouldn't we just leave the easement in place?
You know, this was added very last minute and I wasn't involved in the conversations, but it's on, the easements are on Christopher Drive. I know Zach was involved in them, but this is something that Tony's gonna have to provide more background because I do not know.
Great.
And unfortunately, I don't think Tony is joining the meeting today.
What's the difference between 22 and property?
22 is a COLA adjustment and 23 is a HERO Act.
Yeah, so 22 is you can adopt a COLA adjustment for the property tax exemptions. And 23 is that it's a local option. So it has to be voted at town meeting and it allows the town to choose to exempt up to an additional 100% of the exemption. So there's dollar values for all these various veterans property tax exemptions. This Article 23 allows the town, and the recommendation is to adopt 100% increase. So for instance, if one of the exemptions is $750, the new exemption will now be double that.
And that's called HERO?
It's the HERO Act, yes.
All right, so we have them. I'm just trying to quickly figure out, for all this community preservation, maybe I should just sit here and as we go through them, I'll start adding rows. I guess what I would suggest is, Lynn, can you kind of just summarize each of these in order for us? If the committee has any questions or comments, we'll take it at that time and then we'll just vote them.
Sure.
That seems to be the most efficient to me.
Bob, have you reviewed what Allison sent around, in particular the red line version?
I have not, no.
because it has the brief descriptions of each of the grant recommendations.
Is that in the email we were just looking at?
It's in the email that Allison sent this afternoon.
It's one of these attachments, no doubt. I'm just gonna go
Clean.
clean. We're gonna live clean. Oh, it doesn't have. It really doesn't have a. So
Page
for A is,
A is the Veterans Park flagpoles.
You also have, I had sent the articles out to you, Bob, along with Deborah and Barbara. I was hoping you could share them with the committee. I don't have everyone's email addresses.
okay, I did not.
Okay.
So this is adding the 2 flagpoles at Veterans Park.
That's right. Which my committee met again last Monday, or this past Monday, to review the articles that had the emendations that I had added to various articles as a result of the conversations we had with you on the 24th. They voted to continue to recommend this article.
Was there any discussion?
Oh,
Because
yes.
we had some
Reservations.
reservations. Thank you.
You're welcome. I shared the reservations. I asked people to go down to Veterans Park, as I did on several occasions, to look at the layout. It was felt that there was room for 2 flagpoles. And I then related to Dana, actually Dana Sheehan joined us that night, related the need to coordinate with Town Hall and make sure that Tony was well aware of and I actually spoke with Tony about this as well. So
No, who is the sponsor of this? Is it
the sponsor is the American Legion, but it's under the town of Nahant.
And typically you look for some sort of a match or at least contribution. Is the Legion supplying that in this case as well?
No,
No.
they are not. And actually, we don't require a match. We certainly encourage matches when
That
that's
better said.
possible.
Yeah, better said.
Yeah. So yes, that's number 1. The second article.
Well, should we
Sorry.
vote these as we go along? So is there more commentary or from any of the committee on the veterans flagpoles? And does anyone want to make a motion?
Yeah, I move that we do not recommend. I went out with a tape measure and pulled the centers and the circumference of the arc that creates the current layout of flagpoles. I think that the $10,000 to do this is woefully underestimated. There's mixed feelings at American Legion 215 as to the merit of this, and to have the flagpole stay on center, we would have to move all of them, which costs a lot more than $10,000. So I think that the scope is erroneous. I don't think it can be done for $10,000. I don't think that we are in need of being able to display a flag for merchant mariners who are currently paid over $100,000 a year and are free to quit their job and are never sent to Leavenworth for desertion. So I don't think this is a good spend, and I don't think 10 will get it anyway.
Well, yeah, I appreciate your comments on that, Dan. I will say that I am concerned about the layout myself, but I also had my committee members point out that there is space for 2 flagpoles on either side of the walk.
The walkway, they encroach on the walkway and it takes the center off. So if you take the existing center of the poles, I actually put a tape on it, and I do this for a living, and when I get it wrong, it comes out of my wages. So they are basically touching and encroaching by 1 brick into the walkway on each side.
Yeah, well, I don't think that, yeah.
No,
If
wait,
you're very, very
actually,
precise on measurement.
time out for a second, just before we go on. Dan made a motion. It has not been seconded. Does anyone want to second this? At least just for discussion purposes.
I'll second it.
Okay, so go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sorry. I won't defend it per se. I simply will say that I think that the 2 new flagpoles could be scooched a little bit so they aren't precisely the same measurements as separating the other flagpoles, and they could go on either side of the walkway. I'm not happy to hear now that the Legion is not in support of this.
It's mixed. I believe there may or may not have been a vote. I was at the meeting. It was there's not widespread support for this. That much I can say.
Yeah.
And to Bob's point, I know that there would be a lack of support to have any kind of a cash match.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that, Dan. Well, yeah, this is a tricky thing, so.
Yeah, I mean, just as an Army veteran, I feel it denigrates the services that go in harm's way to put up a flag that represents, although World War II is certainly a tough time for the merchant mariners, to put up a flag of folks who are free to quit anytime they want, who don't get sent to Leavenworth for desertion, who don't get shot for desertion, and basically make terrific wages.
Ooh,
And
ouch.
what's the other flag?
The Massachusetts flag,
The
I think.
Massachusetts flag.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why? Why the Massachusetts flag?
Probably for symmetry.
Because it's missing.
So I'm going to call the question and see if we can make some progress.
Right. Are we prepared to vote? You may not need to call the question.
I'm
All
prepared.
right. Shall we let's do a roll call vote then.
And this is in favor of not recommending. Correct?
Yes, I'm sorry, I should clarify. Yes, the motion was to not recommend, so an I vote is to not recommend. I'm doing this in Zoom order. Tim,
Sure, I'll vote aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
who am I missing? Melanie.
Aye.
Am I missing anyone else? Zoom is being weird on me here. Bob Vandersleis votes aye, so unanimous vote in a favor. This is not recommended. And Dan, do you want to write the
Yeah, I can.
recommendation for this one?
Yes, and I don't think we need to go into the worthiness of any service, but I think we need to go into the architecture, which is evident.
Thank you. That was exactly what I was going to say. I don't think we want to raise that argument.
Yes, I believe we do have 5 merchant mariners in town, none of them World War II.
Do we want to reference the mixed support from the Legion or no?
Well, that goes back to Lynn's point, that typically the beneficiaries of the CPC funds are not obligated to match.
No. Independent of funding, I think I heard you say that there was mixed support for the
Yes.
proposal.
Yes, yeah, absolutely mixed support, and it's never been brought up to deal with any funding level, but our primary mission is scholarships. That's what we try and do at the Dome.
So but if it was only mixed support for this whole process, then I would like to see that referenced.
Could it be phrased something like money better spent, for instance, on scholarships or something like that?
That's not CPC.
Right. Yes.
No, I mean,
I'll craft something that everyone can review. I just want to keep it brief, and I think the architecture argument is a very strong one, and the fact that the scope development is inadequate, there's no blueprints, and to do this 10,000 seems to me to be like a half or a third of the real price.
that sounds perfect. Very clear. Yep. Thank you.
Did you forget F?
Probably did. That's what happens when you're multitasking. Okay, now we have an F, but it's the wrong F. Oh, wait, what did I do? F is library.
Excuse me 1 second. Daisy, come on.
E is the playground.
Then what's
D
maybe I missed.
is Bailey's Hill.
That's what I missed. Okay,
Yep.
so all of these move
Down one, and you need to
down
put Bailey's
one.
Hill on D.
And
There you
D
go.
becomes,
Bailey's Hill.
thank you. Okay, so moving right along, life-saving station roof. Which
Bob, I
is,
have no standing here, but I wonder if I could ask a question.
you certainly may.
It's Paul Spurn.
Yep.
The items that appear in the warrant book, are those only the ones that the FinCom endorses? Or will the CPC, all the CPC articles appear, each one with a note at the end saying whether the FinCom endorses?
The latter, they will all appear with an attached recommendation.
Okay, so this item, which you are not endorsing, will appear with the original text of our explanation. Is that correct?
Yeah, it will appear, the warrant article itself will appear, and that will be followed by our FinCom recommendation and a supporting statement from your committee. And Allison, I don't think it's too late if you want to change the existing supporting statement.
Well, I don't know necessarily that we would want to.
I don't know. I'm just
Right.
I'm just kind of noting that it, is as an option if you want to pursue it or not.
Yeah, so nothing is set in stone until we have to go and print. The CPC is going to have a book printed, but also the warrant that goes out to every household will be printed. It'll have the CPC supporting statement as well as the Finance Committee's recommendation.
Lynn, are you clear on that too?
I'm very clear about that, Paul.
Good.
We've had this, it's the same as it's ever been, quite honestly.
Yeah, I just
We've
wanted
had-
to air that. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, B is life-saving station roof, $150,000.
And we should add that there's a $30,000 match from NPT.
That's right, Barbara. And they've also applied for
A grant.
Massachusetts Preservation Projects Fund,
Right.
which could give $50,000 towards this project. It would then sort of, if, depending on how the bids come in, it would then perhaps offset some of the CPA investment. That
Right.
money will just go back into the general fund.
Right.
I move that we recommend this article.
I
I'll
second.
second that.
Dan, you're taking notes. You get to call it.
Tim-
Which of the competing seconds
It
wins?
moved. Okay.
All right, roll call vote. Barbara,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Melanie,
Aye.
and Bob votes aye, unanimous vote in favor. C is roofs for the housing authority, house, Spring Road.
That's for 4 roofs on Spring Road.
Well, I'll move that we approve this because it's very straightforward and they need the roofs.
I'll second.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. We'll do it in backwards order this time. Melanie,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
Bob votes aye, unanimous vote in favor. I've been talking all day and I'm feeling very tongue-tied.
Have some of the sparkling water.
I'm beginning to wish it was the other kind of sparkling beverage.
Got it, got it.
Anyway, does anybody particularly want to write this?
Do we have a dollar amount on this?
Yes, it's
Mm,
$40,000, Dan.
Thank you.
I'll write
Yep.
it, Bob.
That was Melanie?
Yep.
Oh, remembers you. Okay. Bailey's Hill is D. So this is what? This is like the second phase or the second year of 3, as I remember.
That's
That's
correct.
right.
And there's a
Yep.
swim contribution to this.
Yep. There's $3,000 from swim,
So, right.
and the grant is $39,345.
Right. And there's in kind from DPW, correct?
And there'll probably be volunteer opportunities to
Right.
also participate. So yeah.
Yeah, Nancy brought up that idea, which was a good idea.
So when they say it's in kind from the DPW, does that mean that the workers are not being paid for that work?
No, it just means that it's part of their time is actually allocated over there. They're paid under the regular payroll. But yeah,
No, it's like a,
I don't see this as I think it's certainly cooperative work from the DPW, but most of the work is being done by Parterre, which is the contractor for this.
Well, nonetheless, I will move to recommend this article.
I'll second.
made and seconded. Roll call vote. Barbara,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Melanie,
Aye.
and hello, Tony.
Hello.
Does anybody in particular want to write this before I ask Barbara if she will write it?
I'll write it.
Not only can I not talk, I can't type. Okay, Pleasant Street Playground. This is the refurb and new playground equipment.
Yeah, it's additional playground equipment. So it's $50,000. It's a substantial investment. But it's playground equipment that has actually been researched and designed to actually enhance learning experiences for multiple age groups and developmental sort of stages in life. So
Is it as cool as the whale and the pirate
I
ship?
think it'll be pretty cool. Yeah. I mean, Tony and the recreation group that he works with have been pretty creative about this stuff. So, and we certainly have strongly recommended that it be in keeping with the character of town hall and the library. And very often, parents are bringing and caregivers are bringing their children to the library programs and then visiting the playground or vice versa. So it's a very complementary kind of set of experiences.
Oh, this is the playground behind the library.
Yeah,
Yes.
to the side on
on
Pleasant Street.
Pleasant, okay.
Yeah. I think I said this last week, but I walk the dogs past there several times a week, and it is almost always occupied.
It's packed.
Yeah.
We've done, when we installed the fence along the front side there to help with safety of the kids, I think that's helped a lot too.
Yes, it's a great idea.
Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to recommend.
All right, motion has been made. Is there a second?
Well, I'll second.
Okay. I'm a little curious. Is there further discussion just since there seemed to be a delay or there before we vote on this one?
It seems like a lot of money. It's good that the playground is getting a lot of use in its current state. What is our sunk cost? It sounds as though we have a bit of architecture and engineering already completed.
What, sorry, ask that again?
We,
What-
Yeah,
it sounds as though this is a well-developed plan that has some level of architecture and engineering already accomplished. What do we pay to get that done?
Oh, so we had funding through CPC approved a year or two ago that allowed us to bring in New England Recreational Group to assess all of our playgrounds and
Okay.
essentially kind of put together an inventory plan of existing structures and what state of condition they're in, and it kind of helped us create a little bit of a capital plan. Pleasant Street Playground didn't have much. We've we've already invested in new swings, new surface material, fixing some of the individual spring type equipment that's there. We've put in some new benches and things like that, but nothing out of really with this. This is all new equipment. It's none of it is to restore existing, that it's in pretty good shape. I will say it seems like a lot because playground equipment is extremely expensive. It is insane how expensive these things are.
I mean, there's no safety issue with the current infrastructure, Tony.
Nope, it's all to
I mean,
code.
where I'm headed with this is as we look at item F, which we've already determined to be a black hole of money, and freeing up 50 out of here to go there might be a good move.
You mean moving, you mean distributing these funds to other properties?
No, just library repairs. I mean, it's the
Fix that.
playground at the library. And we know that our discussion in the library was that we don't have a firm scope. We don't have engineering. We don't have much of anything except a 7-year-old budget that's been been updated a bit, and we did approve that. And it kind of takes us into a menu of a sequence of tasks we'd like to accomplish, whether it's electrical and fire suppression, fire detection, and a whole litany of shortfalls in that library.
Mhm.
I hate to, which we know we're not going to get to. we don't have enough money in that budget to nail all that stuff. And the library obviously is the crown jewel, and the playground seems adequate.
Well, you really got to separate the two. This is a recreational type expense versus a historical preservation type expense. It is not part of the library, even though it abuts the library. It falls more in line with our, as I mentioned, we did that inventory plan. We figured out that Little Nahant Playground was #1 priority. We've completed that.
For fairness, yeah.
We identified Pleasant Street as the next playground that really needed updating. And then we identified Flash Road as the next one, which last year, if you remember, we got CPC funds to do a master plan, recreational master plan for the Flash Road playground. So this is in line with like our 3-year, 4-year, 5-year plan specific to playgrounds. This playground is unique in that it really targets a younger crowd. There's not like Flash Road, you have ages 10 and up, where in this playground, it's more 10 and down. So it's what we're trying to do here is the space, the equipment that's there is great. There's a slide and climbing structure. There's some spring activity. There's swing sets. This type of equipment is more interactive with that younger crowd. So it's musical type equipment. It's equipment that it helps like sensory development. It expands, what we have there into another phase that really provides value to that younger youth. So I really would try to separate it from the library subject itself, even though it abuts and there's some programming overlap. It really is a separate project altogether.
Who who is the requester or the
The town of Nahant,
The town and the house.
town itself? Okay.
the town of
Yep.
Nahant, yeah.
Along with the Recreation Commission too.
As we look at item F, Lynn, can you just give us a little preview as to the extent of, I understand that we can't, mix apples and oranges here, but it looks as though some amount of repairs are going on to CPC funds under item F. And can that overlap the other things that we've discussed for getting the library into consistent shape? I mean, the library is just a black hole of restoration and cost.
Well, yes, the library deserves investment. And I don't know if I would call it absolutely a black hole. And I also do question the comment that there hasn't been planning and engineering and thought given to it. I really truly wish that the rewrite of the article that I had carefully done after our meeting last week was able to be in front of you. But I guess that wasn't distributed.
Well, my question is simple. Under library repairs for item F,
Yep.
Would that help with the anticipated shortfall that we have on the dedicated library article? So we anticipate a shortfall there already based on what we can accomplish and our current costs and the level of cost estimation that's been done. This item F, if there was more cash in it, would it take us farther along?
I appreciate the clarity of that question, Dan. I honestly think the $50,000 isn't going to make that much difference in the library budget at this point, and it will make a real difference in the playground. So our committee, has wrestled as you are with the needs of the library, the needs of other recreational and open space opportunities throughout Nahant. We felt that this was a worthy project, and it's one we discussed at some length. I think Barbara had heard some of those discussions.
And there was
Good.
very strong support. Kelly, right?
Yeah, there was very strong support from
Right.
caregivers who are used to using that playground and are involved also on the Recreation Commission.
And very, very
Oh,
strong.
there you go. Thank you.
I'll just add too that it's not a burden on the CPC's ability to do both. The library article is a borrowing article where this is funding from existing revenues. So reducing this doesn't affect what you can do at the library or vice versa.
I'm gonna be supporting the playground, but just, I want to ask Lynn, I know with the housing category, we have funds that are sitting idle because we don't have enough housing things to be spending it on. Are we anywhere close to that level as far as the recreation category?
No, we've always we've supported a lot of recreation and open
Okay.
space activity, so we have no reserves.
So any reduction here would be able to be reallocated.
I'm not sure I understand that. If this was taken off the table, Lynn, then you're not dedicating 10% of the revenues. Does it have to be towards recreation?
It has to be, it's recreation and open space are lumped
And
together.
open space. Got it.
I just have to close my door because I find there's a meeting downstairs, and that's why our dog was like excited.
Well, we have a motion on the floor. If there's more discussion, we should have it. Otherwise, I'm gonna call a question.
All right, so we have a motion that, and a second. And I'm not hearing anyone else, so roll call vote. Dan?
I vote aye.
Oh, and this one's a straight aye is aye, right?
Aye is aye.
Aye is aye.
But the
Yeah,
motion
it's
is
not a
to
backwards one like the
recommend.
flagpole.
Okay, Melanie,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
and Bob votes aye. We move on to
Right.
Oh,
Library repairs.
I'm so glad you have these on the screen. Okay, folks, this is what we drafted in response to some of the very trenchant comments we got from you a week ago. So this is that $700,000 sort of appropriation, $200,000 of which is to be funded from the free cash to offset it. And we are looking at then a $500,000 bond. And so I added a line that says the first year would be of the bond would be 78,500, and that would be appropriated to pay for it. And then in the supporting statement, I try to clarify the priorities in the way that we discussed last week, so it goes one after another. And I've also added that there will be, in addition to architectural services, there will be an owner's project manager retained. In my world, where when we do municipal projects, the fee for owners project managers is between 3 and 5% of the estimated construction cost, just to give you a window of what that might be. So in this case, it could be $15,000 to $20,000. And the architectural services for this have been paid for by funds from the Friends of the Library. There's a capital fund that has been created, and that funded the services for updating the master plan as well as developing the plans and specs for the exterior envelope work, which is the first call on this appropriation. So the order of work, if you will, for the appropriation would be ensuring weather-tight building envelope with masonry restoration and roofing work. That would be bid on its own and undertaken. And then the next two might be actually packaged together because they are, or next three might be packaged together, but broken out in the bids. And that would be replacing the knob and tube wiring with modern code mandated electrical wiring. And then augmenting the electrical service capacity, anticipating future improvements. So that's basically upgrading the service. And then replacing the fire detection system to modern standards. Right now, it's not an addressable system, so it really should be addressable. So firefighters will know where there's a problem. The last is the fire suppression system. And I think that we had quite a discussion about that last week about, the budget for that. But that would be the last thing that would be possibly undertaken here. So I've tried to kind of clarify in this supporting statement some of the commentary that you offered last week.
I'm going to move to approve this. I don't know if there's a second yet.
I'll second.
Is there further discussion?
Well, I would simply like to say, Lynn, I'm very glad to see, the clarification, the bulleting, and also the phrase now that says priorities
Right.
are listed in the order they will be expended, not to exceed,
Yeah.
which means that if we can't do it all, right?
Yeah.
We can't do it all.
Can't do it all.
And that we've got everything.
I think the other thing that, this very long narrative then follows this, but it is important to note that the library trustees with the Friends are really seriously engaged in planning for a capital campaign. They've got a small nut of money that they've raised, but they understand that the town and CPC is not the only funding source that needs to be brought into this picture.
All right. We have a motion and we have a second.
Okay, so this is not library repairs under CPC. We're back to a major article, right? Is
No,
that where?
this is still inside CPC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
this is CPC.
Oh, so this is still 24F. Okay.
Yeah, this is 24F. I'm sorry,
Roger.
I don't
Okay.
have your numbering system now.
Okay. Dan moves. Barbara
I seconded.
seconds.
All right. So roll call vote. Tim,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
Melanie,
Aye.
Dan.
Aye.
I feel like I did Tim and Barbara. You've moved in the Zoom meeting. Bob votes aye, so unanimous vote in favor.
And I will volunteer to write up, we didn't ask me to, but I'll write up E and F.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
It's just short conversation about what our recommendation might look like for this. And the thing that concerns me is there's just been a historic, whatever, precedent in the FinCom that we look for specificity. We look for engineering estimates. We look for us, moving towards certainty. And this one lacks it. I get it. I understand why, and I'm still supportive of it. And I'm debating in my head whether we need to just hit that head on in our recommendation or be silent about it.
Well, I would offer that the envelope work has specificity. It actually has been, there was exploratory work, there was, a a substantial investment in understanding the problems and developing a game plan. And the game plan is now in the form of plans and specifications, which would be shortly then tuned up for actual bidding. So a lot was invested in that.
But my understanding is that's what, 6 or 7 years old.
No,
No,
it's
there's
not at all.
something. Okay,
There's a
then,
two parts to this. So the
ah,
highest priority work, the masonry and roofing work has been thoroughly investigated. Now, I won't say everything's known because it's only known once you get into construction, but there
yeah.
was a mason hired to do exploratory openings in the attics area, so they understood the path of travel for the water. No, there was a lot of work that was
And
put in.
recently, it was very recent.
Oh, yeah,
work.
it was 4 months ago.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
you just made me feel way better.
And so the thing that actually does date back is, in fact, the electrical fire detection and fire suppression. That was all part of that 2019 master plan. Again, engineers were brought in. There was very thorough investigation. A professional cost estimator was brought in. Dan and I probably have similar views about that. But there was a professional cost estimator who actually estimated those costs. That for this purpose, that was updated with escalations. It wasn't recost estimated. And so that is part of that older sort of.
Okay.
This was the article that we were talking about, professional project, third-party paid professional project management.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, once we have that, we can run an extremely competitive bidding process to like deliverables, and that can be articulated at town meeting, and I don't think that people can quarrel with it.
Okay.
Thank you, Dan. That's so well put. Yeah.
Yeah. So that sounds like, or those two pieces sound like a key part of our recommendation. That
Yes,
high priority
absolutely.
work and the things that we're going to tackle first do have recent, what's the right, recent estimates.
Estimate.
Yeah.
And this will include a professional project manager, clerk of the works, whatever
That's
you
right.
will,
Yep.
to ensure that it's done and managed up to spec and in a professional manner. Boom, done.
Yeah. With the sentence I use is between the architectural, the architects and the owner's project manager. Together, they're responsible for fiscal accountability and quality control. That's the sentence I used.
Right. Terrific. So motion passes unanimous. Let's march ahead.
Yep.
Okay.
Motion passes unanimous. Where are we? That was library repairs. G is CPC administration. Hang on.
That's the $10,000 sort of pay our dues and pay for the cost of printing and so on. If you just go down. Right there,
Yep.
it's our number 7.
Yeah, I'm gonna move to approve. That's pretty light money when you consider the overall CPC budget.
I'll second.
Okay. Further discussion?
What number is
No.
this? Is this E?
Oh, gosh.
It's
We should
G.
get back on.
Your E,
So
yes.
many,
It's
this
G on the
is-
warrant
this
here.
is, yeah, G.
G.
Yeah,
Yeah.
G as in gosh golly G.
Golf. Okay, CPC admin.
All right, quick roll call vote before before I forget. Barbara,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Melanie.
Aye.
Bob votes aye, unanimous vote in favor.
And I'll write it, Bob.
Thank you. H, also known as, I don't know what
This is actually to put set aside the $3,225 into the housing reserve because of that kind of 10% is $43,000 and change, and we are only giving a $40,000 grant. So that net difference needs to go into the housing reserve.
Discussion or motion, please?
I'll move this, that we approve it.
Second.
I'll second.
So, motion is made and seconded. Melanie,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Bob votes aye, unanimous vote in favor. We move on. I will volunteer to write the recommendation for this number 9 right here.
Okay, sorry about that. That 9 doesn't, it needs to go away.
Okay.
You can't have that, Bob.
I'm just teasing, don't
I
worry.
know.
Mhm.
No, the next one, I took your comments about let's put the actually appropriation at the beginning of the article rather than at the end. So that's why I've highlighted that in yellow. So this is the first this is actually retiring the $400,000 bond by appropriating $184,000 and change. And then I'm showing it being funded by 2 buckets. One is the balance of our available fiscal year 26 funding. And then we have to draw from the general reserve to sort of pay the entire amount. But that's the gist of that article. That retires that library bond.
Clearer.
I'm sorry?
I said much clearer.
It is
Good.
much clearer.
Lynn, do you think it would be explanatory to exchange, instead of the word entirety, the remainder of the bond? Because I don't see how you can pay off $400,000 with $184,000, but you could pay off the balance.
Yes, that's a good edit. Thank you.
So I move we recommend this.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Dan,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
Melanie,
Aye.
and Bob votes aye, unanimous vote in favor. No, wait, I need to do some quick
I'll write
housekeeping.
this one because it's library. I'm the liaison for the library, so I will write this one as well.
Okay, thank you. Did we? All right, then the second one is the 2021 borrowing that we're paying off?
We're not paying it off. We're just paying interest in some amount of principal. And that's for the 21
Okay, so this is debt
21.
service
It's debt service.
2021.
That's the standard scheduled amount.
It's not quite, Tim. We're paying the interest and $20,000 towards the debt. We're husbanding our resources.
So a lesser amount because we paid off the other.
Yeah, that's right.
I move we recommend.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Melanie,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Dan.
Aye.
Bob votes aye, unanimous vote in favor. Now I have to catch up here.
And Bob, I'm happy to write the recommendation for this and the next one.
Okay, can you tell me what this one is? HIJ.
It's more
Okay.
debt service.
This is J.
It's a debt service for a 2022 article.
Or what?
For it's the combination of library, town hall, and Green Lawn Cemetery entrance.
Cemetery, right? That's spelled right? It's one of
It's an
those.
E.
I think it's ERY, isn't it?
It is
It's an
ERY.
E.
I think it's ERY. It's one of those that I always get wrong.
And then you doubt yourself and then correct it wrongly.
Yep. I'll double check because that will be a good learning exercise for me. Okay. Discussion or motion, one or the other.
Oh, I thought I moved that we recommend.
And I already seconded it also.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I was too busy. All right, then roll call vote. Barbara,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Melanie,
Aye.
Bob votes aye, unanimous vote in favor, and I'm gonna slow us all down if I keep trying to do what I was doing. So,
We're almost there. We only have
yeah.
2 more.
no. So no, wait, that was,
Your labeling might be off. I'm looking at the lettering from Allison's.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's, I need to figure this. That's what I mean. I'm gonna make a hash of it if I keep trying to do this.
Maybe just do the line items and assign the letters later.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna work from your supporting statement here, what you see on the screen.
2022.
So we
Okay.
we are at
We're at
12.
12. So the next one is a housekeeping article. It just says a general, if there's any money left over, it goes into the general reserve. And that one is labeled as number 13. You just voted.
We just voted on 12. Yeah, now we're on
Voted
13.
on 12. Your next one is on
No.
what's labeled here as 13.
This is crazy. We have like 3 different lists and 3 different numbering schemes and okay.
No, it's just, yeah.
Okay. Discussion or motion on this one?
I'll move.
Second?
I'll second.
Melanie said, Barbara moves, Melanie second, so roll call vote. Barbara,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Melanie,
Aye.
Bob votes aye, unanimous vote in favor. Then,
You're almost there.
yeah, I'm just debating with myself or amongst this group. Can we vote these en masse?
The article that Allison sent has a single line item of 93,754 and 38 cents.
Correct.
Right.
Then
So this, you don't have the latest version of this because we had one of these that got withdrawn. So Tim's right, that dollar amount at the top should change. And this was being thought of as being voted as all one
all one. So
motion.
the warrant, Tim, you're right. The warrant has it as one, so we can vote it that way.
Great.
Right.
Yay.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the nomenclature on this? Is this 14?
This is
In the warrant, it's M as in Machiavellian
Okay,
Now, do
we're
we
back.
need
Or
to-
money.
or
when we
money.
vote,
Or
do we
money.
need to change that number up there to 93,754.38?
Yes, you have a later version of this.
The
You
correct
have the version that was sent out today.
Yeah, I have that.
Yeah.
Okay, so whoever makes this motion, it's moved to approve with whatever the sum is, the right sum, which I think is $93,754.38.
That's
Yes?
correct.
That's correct.
Okay. Does somebody want to make such a motion?
So moved.
motion. Oh, Dan makes the motion and I second it.
All
Okay,
right, Tim.
unanimous, sorry, roll call vote. I'm jumping the gun. Roll call vote. Melanie,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Lynn, you're not part of, who do we have? Tim,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
Bob votes aye, unanimous vote in favor. Finally, I get to say that.
Okay. Um, and with that,
And with that, exactly.
Before we close this conversation, I came in late. I missed the first article about the flagpoles. Um, I just want to make one more push here that I feel strongly that we should present a unified approach from the CPC and the Finance Committee and the
Uh-oh. Tony, you
Oh.
just froze.
You're breaking up, Tony.
or controversy related to support or lack of support to the veterans. I think it's mostly about the process and of which how the application came about and some of the details behind. I just strongly suggest that either both the CPC and the Finance Committee support it, or we remove it entirely. I would hate to go to town meeting and even have a discussion about whether or not, the town is or isn't being supportive of our veterans over something that it really isn't about that. So I just ask that we revisit that conversation and
Well, can we remove it? I'm fine with that.
I will say that I went back to my committee and really said, this is being questioned by FinCom. And I said that, there wasn't the kind of coordination with town hall, specifically with the town administrator, that really should happen. And I left it, the person attending the meeting, Dana Sheehan, left the meeting saying he would certainly reach out to Tony and make sure that the kind of coordination conversations were at least started.
he did. We weren't able to connect. I mean, really, the coordination conversation should have happened months ago.
Which we have been, I want to say we have encouraged, and I've been told over and over again that John Lazar had reached out and so on and so forth.
No, and I'm not, I'm not pointing towards your process whatsoever. I just, uh, you know, basically, I don't think it's worth having a potential controversy over support of our veterans at town meeting. And whether it gets approved, we'll then can work on coordination. We may need to work closer with the Legion and potentially, I don't know where, I have no idea if this is enough funding or not, but that's okay. If it's approved, we can revisit it. I look at it similar to, when the school came forward for the funding for the Heritage Trail to the Flash Road Park. And then we came back the next year and said, let's use that money and combine it with a master plan process. So we could do something like that in the future. I
Tony, just so
go
you
ahead.
know, we voted to not recommend it.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I understand.
And-
That's what I'm saying is,
Tony, as this is an opportunity to literally wave the flag, and I'm not for or against waving the flag. I was told, there was question as to whether or not it's viable at the cost that it's been estimated, and B, that in fact there was not universal support within the advocating agency.
Well said.
So it was very easy to say no under those circumstances.
And
Thank you,
And
Tim.
if one group says yes and the other group doesn't recommend, that's the system working.
agreed.
What would actually make sense is if the applicant withdrew their application, because our committee is also kind of wrestling with some of the same things that Tony has raised, which is it's hard not to support the veterans. And we on multiple occasions, were told that it had the support of the American Legion, and I'm finding that that's not true. And I don't know the internal process there, but my committee was unwilling to actually withdraw or deny the article at the meeting this past Monday. If the applicant decides to withdraw, that's another thing.
I can speak to that applicant, Lynn. And I think the other thing that's going to emerge from this discussion will be when we get to tax abatements for the disabled veterans. So it's not as though we're not a veteran supporting municipality. I will talk to that proponent and see if I can get him to withdraw it to avoid an embarrassment at town meeting for him.
And I really appreciate that Tony has sort of raised that to us at the end of this session, because we don't want to have an embarrassment at town meeting.
No.
In any case.
Would
No,
this
and I
be,
support, I support both the position that the CPC is in and the finance committee. I am too,
Yeah.
in the middle,
Yeah.
like going back and forth. I believe strongly that what we bring to town meeting needs to be sound and it needs to be in order to get the recommendations from the finance committee support. And I completely understand where you're coming from. And I know it's not about lack of support of veterans. I missed the conversation. I just wanted to bring it one last time up. I'm okay with whichever way we go. If it ends up staying this way, I think we can adequately explain to the residents at town meeting why the finance committee isn't supporting it and why, we may revisit it in the future. It just needs more groundwork before it's ready for a vote, so I think we can explain it.
But it's going to be so much cleaner if it's withdrawn and we actually
Yes.
deal with the substantive issues in
well,
front of us.
let me pick up on what Tony just said, because I think it's very important. You made important substantive points there, and that's an opportunity for you, Tony, to step forward to the Legion and say to them, we would appreciate if you would reconsider, and I will work with you to see what would present a doable proposal next year that everyone could support wholeheartedly.
Yep.
That's where you can step up, Tony.
Yeah, happy to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, a proposal, with active endorsement from the Legion. Ideally, maybe an active contribution from the Legion as well.
I don't know if I start there.
Yeah, I think
you might get there. You might get there, but I don't know if I'd start there.
Right, and right now we have between Dan speaking with his group and Tony. I think this is fine. Let us not flog this anymore. It's
Okay.
just,
All right.
yeah.
All right. So Dan, why don't I connect with you over the coming week here and we'll figure out a game plan.
I mean, my thought, Tony, was just to give that proponent a bell and tell him about this discussion. I'm surprised he's not on the meeting. Tell him the goal is to avoid a tong war at the town meeting where we get into nuts and bolts and nothing good will happen.
Okay.
And I mean, then if he'll yank it, we have no issue. And I believe he will, especially when I mentioned the possible quid pro quo of something that's actually valuable to veterans, which is being able to improve the tax abatement for the disabled veterans.
Yeah. Call me afterwards and
Roger.
then I'm happy to work closely. The town has identified Veteran Park as a place that needs some upgrading, regardless of it means adding new poles, adding additional poles, or restoring existing. So we're happy to work closely with the veterans with the Legion on pursuing something in the future.
Terrific.
Excellent.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening, Lynn and Paul.
Thank you,
Okay.
Lynn.
Unless
All
you want
right.
to stay
No, we applaud
I've done
you
enough
for,
damage.
we
And-
applaud you for what you do. So thank you so much. And we'll look
Thank
forward to.
everyone on the committee.
yeah, as
Okay,
soon as
will do.
everybody leaves, the finance committee has, we have cookies and all sorts of things that we,
I know it, right? That's when
Oh,
the
now
party
now the
starts.
treats are coming out. Okay. All right. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night now.
all right. Am I still sharing the screen?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So we deferred a number of these, and I'm not sure where there's certainty yet whether we can vote these or not. Do you have, Allison, Tony, do you have final numbers for transfers, snow and ice, prior year's bills?
We don't right now. Like I said, there's no prior year bills. Snow and ice, I do not have a final number yet. And I don't have anything for transfers either. I did send last Friday after your last meeting, I sent you additional information regarding Article 5, Article 8, and Article 13 that I think you could take up tonight.
Okay, so we've got those. I just want to run the list here. Revolving funds.
Higher up, Bob, I had sent you draft language that I wanted to get reviewed by the committee on the recommendation for the Article 6.
Okay, so what do we want to, I'm just trying to figure out like we know what all of these are. Right now, we have these two new articles that are, at least to me, kind of a mystery. And maybe the thing to do is let's just address these, just if nothing else, to be sure there's no big.
I can talk to them a little bit. The only tax exemption is for disabled veterans, and it is not a complete tax exemption. It is a minor percentage, usually in the couple $100 range. I'm reluctant to get into this too far without actually knowing what the dollar amounts are, and only Sheila can tell us that. And I also know that there is some kind of a state reimbursement on this. That said, we're only talking about disabled veterans. They're the only ones who qualify for this. It's not a tax exemption. It's a it's a reduction in the property tax. And it doesn't apply to every veteran in town. There's 160-ish veterans in town. It only applies to the ones who have a VA confirmed disability that's service related, that they were either injured in combat, or they were injured in the performance of their duties on active duty. And it has to be a permanent disability. It can't be, I caught a cold and I feel like crap. It has to be something that is like wrong with them forever.
Yeah.
So
And is that a 100% disability or a 10% disability or more?
I don't know where it kicks in. I know it kicks in at 100.
Yes.
I don't believe it kicks in at 10 or 15. I think you need like north of 50 or 60.
There's multiple exemptions that are based on the level of your disability, and the amounts of those exemptions are set forth by Mass General Law. So the HERO Act, which was passed in 2024. Hold on one second.
And what are we doing by these two articles? Are we just affirming state law that we would be bound by anyway, or are we authorizing a dollar amount, or
No, state law
none of
gave
the above?
state law gave municipalities the option to take advantage of these things. So the first one is that the property tax exemptions, which are set forth a fixed amount in statute, can be adjusted percentage based on a COLA adjustment tied to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. So that exemption amount can increase based on that COLA percentage on an annual basis.
And what is that property set exemption amount currently?
It varies. So it depends on how big of your disability is, but it goes from on the low end, I think it's around $600. In statute, I think it's $400. And then it goes all the way up to there's a 400, there's a 650, there's a 1,000, there's a 1,500.
So
And
for
then there's a
100%
full.
disability, the maximum would be how large?
I gotta pull up. Do you remember, Allison? I can pull up let me pull up the
Yeah, I
statute.
have Sheila's handout in front of me. One of them, the largest one is 1750.
So we did have Sheila and Lazar, assessor and veteran service agent, do an analysis on existing veterans that are eligible for these exemptions and figure out, somewhat estimate if those numbers remain consistent, what the impact of these costs would be to the overlay account. So these exemptions are funded through the overlay. And she also looked at the other senior exemptions, the work off abatement program, added them all together, and it doesn't, the end of that analysis is that there's no concern that it will have a negative impact to the overlay account or run it into a deficit.
What is the overlay account, Tony? Tony?
What's the number, or what is it?
No, what is it? Why do we call it an overlay account? Does it come from the state? Is it just another bucket of our own money?
Allison, you can answer this better than me.
I knew you were going to do that. So basically the overlay account, it's raised, it's part of how we raise property taxes, but it's set aside to cover the cost of any of these. There's multiple property abatements and exemptions under state statute that individual residents are eligible for. There's senior exemptions. There's a senior tax work-off program. There's these veterans exemptions and such. And then we do receive a small reimbursement from the state for these exemptions. So basically, when Sheila approves an exemption or abatement, it doesn't negatively affect our budget. It just comes out of this set-aside account that we have, an overlay account. Yeah. Is what it's called. So
it's like, it's in commercial accounting, its rough equivalent is allowance for accounts receivable write-offs.
Okay.
Correct.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
So would it be fair to say that the maximum abatement would be 1750, and this article would allow that to grow with the cost of living adjustment?
Correct. That is correct.
And we'll talk about the next one after that.
Yeah, that seems pretty straightforward for a cost of living adjustment, especially if we're if Sheila's already accounted for this shortfall, which is really what it is, and it's already been projected out. So I'm going to vote to approve, or I'm going to make a motion to approve.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Yeah, this is number 22.
I second.
Okay. Further discussion?
Bob, can you allow me to share my screen?
I can stop sharing and I think that will, oh, there you go. Allow. There you go. You're on.
Okay. These are the veteran exemptions. So 22A through F, property tax exemption. It's for veterans or a spouse with minimum 10% service-related disability, or veteran spouse awarded a Purple Heart or Gold Star parents. The exemption amount is $650. Property tax, 22A, is for veterans who lost one hand, foot, or eye, or awarded certain service medals. It's $1,000. 22B, two hands, feet, or eyes is 1,500. 100% disability, 22C, and specially adapted housing is 1,750. I believe this article skips D and goes to E and F. And that's dictated by the statute. 100% disability who are unable to work is 1,250, and then F is paraplegic, full exemption.
Are those additive or does somebody only hit one category?
The way Sheila explained to me is you're only eligible for one.
Okay.
So does that help you guys understand the different types of exemptions that are out there currently? So these numbers, with this article passed, would allow for these numbers to increase by a percentage based on the COLA dictated by the Department of Labor Statistics.
And it's not retroactive in any way. It's going to adjust up starting at these amounts this year.
Correct. I think the article says it's an effective date of July 1, 2025.
Yes.
Why are we skipping D?
The statute, I think, skips D. We looked it up the other day. It just, for some reason, that's the HERO Act didn't refer, it said 22 A through A, B, C, E, F. So we can only do what the statute authorizes
Yeah.
us anyways.
So why is D even there?
Maybe because it's a full exemption for the first 2 years up to 250, 2,500 after that.
First 5 years.
It's mostly because it's surviving spouses. Maybe it has something to do with that.
But I mean, is D a benefit that we are offering?
Yes,
And
it
would
is.
Would it
But this-
continue if it's not?
Yes, these stay in place, but this article would allow the ones that are identified by the statute to increase,
Okay.
adjusted by the
Okay.
COLA.
Okay, got it. I think, Tim, you made a motion.
Dan made the motion.
Dan made the motion. Was there a second?
I seconded it.
All right, so motion has been made and seconded. Is there further discussion on this? Then roll call vote. Tim,
Aye.
Dan,
Abstain.
Barbara,
Aye.
Melanie,
I
and Bob votes aye. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor. So the motion carries. Did I do that right? One,
We have 4 in favor with 1
Yeah.
abstention.
4 in favor with 1 abstention. The motion still carries. All right, so that was 22, and then 23 is Hero. Dan, do you want to write this, the recommendation for this?
Yeah, I can write 22, that we, move to approve, going ahead. Yeah, I'll do 22, Dan.
Tony, can you put that list back up, please?
Yep.
So am I reading Article 23 correctly, that we could potentially double the value of all of these?
Yes.
Tony, do we have an idea of what this is in real dollar amounts? I know we've got like 160 actual veterans in town, and of those, it's a small
Yes.
minority who are disabled. What's the real dollar amount that we're looking at? Do we have a feel for that?
Yes. Let's see. Let me pull up that.
Because whatever that is, we double it or don't, and that's what we're talking about.
Hold on. So yeah, so there's 14 veterans that are eligible for 22. Hold on. Let's see. We're pulling up the spreadsheet that Sheila sent me. 1 second. I'm rotating it, zooming in, share. All right, can you guys see this? Exemptions with projections on adopting clause I and J.
Mm-hmm.
So 22A through F recipients, this is the number of recipients in the fiscal year. And then the total amount exempted based on that number of people that are, number of veterans that are eligible for it.
So the 42 would go to 84. Is that how you see it?
42 would go to 84.
No, I see it. I think the jump is here, looking at FY25 to FY26. So if you have
Okay.
the same amount of veterans that are eligible, 14,
Yep.
22A through F, which totals 9,100, approving this would mean that total then goes to 18,662.
Okay.
And
I'm
then,
with you.
and then 22E, 11 veterans are eligible for 22E, which currently equals 13,750. Doubling it jumps it up to 28,193. The rest of these exemptions are non-veteran related. There's
Okay.
senior
All right.
exemptions. This spreadsheet is all exemptions that impact the overlay. So plus the work off abatement program, which does actually include veterans as well. So from FY25, the cost impact is jumping from 98,900 to 122,905. It's not a double because some of these are veteran that get the double. Some of them are not. They're just senior work off stuff or senior exemptions.
Right. So the two that we're actually looking at are the 13 goes to 28 and the 9 goes to 18. So it'd be 22 existing, the 22 existing would become 44.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's
Then everything else holds true.
Yep.
So then
But all of this is currently covered by the overlay, including the 44.
Yes.
Okay, I'm with you.
Now, I think that, this document needs a little updating on this line in particular, which is the overlay total. The 190 is accurate for fiscal year 24. That is a little bit high. Allison, jump in here when you feel ready.
So it's 190,000 for FY25.
For 25.
Yeah.
But that's a little bit
Um,
high. We're more typically at what amount?
It usually averages between like 150 and 170. 190 is a little high. So the way that it's calculated, it's kind of like the last plug figure. When we calculate the town's tax rate, it's kind of the last portion of the calculation. So I'd say it varies, but it's usually around 170.
But
Allison,
that's
I
the
once had
entire
a,
overlay. That's the whole overlay. All we're voting on now and evaluating is Hero, which takes
Correct.
the 22 to 44. That's
Correct.
all we can vote on among this overlay picture.
Yes,
Yes.
I just wanted you, if we're going to include this as an appendix or something for public, I want to work with Sheila a little bit and Allison about that one line, making sure that it's accurate, because it's kind of inaccurate to state that we're going to have 190 every single year moving forward. But even at the average amount with these approvals, we're still below what we anticipate, and we're not going to run a deficit in the overlay account by approving these two articles.
But if I understand it right, typically our actual or amounts exempted are consistently under 100,000 historically.
Yes,
Yes.
that's correct. And then anything that does stay unused rolls into the next year.
yeah,
So for instance, right now, Sheila's projecting a $91,000 surplus in the overlay. That'll still be available to use in future years.
right. But
And by
who,
use, you mean exempt something.
Correct. Yes.
but
So when we
but
go and calculate the tax rate for FY26, whatever that overlay amount ends up being, it's likely going to be lower than 190, but we still have about 90,000 potentially available to use on top of that for abatements and exemptions.
yeah, so what this is saying, if I'm reading it right, is in that first year, there's a net cost to the town of roughly $25,000. Or is the state stepping up to reimburse the town for the increase?
That I don't know. So we do receive a small percentage reimbursement for our current veterans abatements and exemptions. I'm not sure exactly how that's calculated,
The
but
answer is no.
yeah, I don't know.
I got the law up in front of me here. It says acceptance of this clause by a city or town shall not increase the amount that the city or town otherwise would have been reimbursed by the Commonwealth pursuant to the clause.
Okay, so the town is funding this.
Tony, can you
And
put that other list back up?
well, and Tim, before we go on, let me just, so have we gone back and adjusted
For the COLA.
for this additional $25,000? Either expected revenues are going to be down by that amount, or there's an expense line item in the omnibus someplace that needs to go up by this amount if it hasn't already.
I think because
Allison, you're shaking your head
Well,
like, was that a shaking your head no,
Yeah,
or you're
no,
shaking your head try saying,
it's not
how
going
can
to
I
be
tell
an
Vanderslice he's all wet without?
so it will be covered. Currently, in the current budget, we've estimated about like $125,000 for the overlay in FY26. That may change based on when we go to set the tax rate, and then if the new growth number is higher than I originally estimated, because I use conservative estimates. So there's a number of factors that can change from now until when we set the tax rate in September. Which will change the overlay, the amount that we set aside for the overlay. Plus, we're going to have about 90,000 unspent from this year's overlay. So there's plenty of funds to cover this. It's not going to negatively affect anything that we have in the FY26 budget right now.
Okay, got it. Tim, I'm sorry, I jumped on your
Oh, that's
question.
fine. That's fine.
And then obviously there's also the variable. There's another variable here is the number of recipients. New recipients could become eligible. Current recipients could pass away. So that it's hard to really project out
Yeah, it's
future.
encouraging to see the number being steady all the way out into the future.
What was the other list you wanted to see, Tim?
The different exemptions. Because now I want to look at them with the view of double.
Well, we have to look at this somewhere and somehow, but the only thing we can vote on now is the HERO Act, which is 22 incremental, which is covered.
So as I understand, Article 23 is to potentially double these dollar value exemptions. And so I'm looking at it, whereas before I was looking at a $1,700 exemption, I'm now looking at a $3,500 exemption.
Correct.
Just my dad was partially disabled and later fully disabled, and he had certain benefits. And I'm looking at this from the perspective of, is that more benefit than he would have wanted? Okay, no, I'm good.
I don't know if this is the question that you're asking, but what you're saying is leading me to think of a question, which is if you accept both of these, which was authorized by the HERO Act, then 650 doubles and then a COLA adjustment on top of it.
But as I understood it, yes, the COLA adjustment is more a long-term issue. It's not going to do any dramatic dramatic next fiscal year increase.
Okay.
If it is, please let us know.
I don't know how to answer that without knowing what future COLA adjustments are going to look like.
That's future. As long as it doesn't count any past ones, I'm okay.
No, it says it's effective. The model language we got from the state included adding an effective date. So I think that was to ensure that it wasn't retroactive.
I'm used to tax laws that use 2010 numbers and then they do the adjustment now.
All right. Does someone want to make a motion on this? Wow. The motion could be to not.
Barbara, you're muted.
I'll move it.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, no, Barbara was
Oh,
muted.
Barbara.
She was trying to make the motion for you.
Oh, okay. So there's a motion. Is there a second? Thank you, Barbara.
I'll second.
All right. A motion has been made and seconded. Roll call vote. Tim,
Aye.
Dan,
Abstain.
Barbara,
I
Melanie,
Aye.
Bob votes aye. So it is 4 and 1 abstention. The motion carries. And Dan, do you want to write this one too?
Yeah, I'll write this one.
You're kind of our veterans. Whatever. And then the other new one that snuck in is Article 26, abandoned drainage easement. Only you are muted now.
Well, until Tony speaks up, I get very nervous about something like this unless I see universal support for everybody within multiple blocks.
Yeah, it's a puzzler to me, Tim. Why would we forfeit an existing easement even if we're not using it? We have all these problems with easements that don't exist, or people in places where it's needed, like on Castle Road, and the angry abutters are problematic. That I don't. Is there someone who can talk to this?
Tony, you're on mute.
Sorry. I
There
didn't
you
realize
go.
I was on mute. Here we go. Okay, so you can see in red, you can see the easement here in red.
Hold it. Go back out just so I can orient myself, please.
This easement goes from Nahant Road to Wharf Street, through properties along Christopher Drive, and then Christopher Drive connects to Wharf Street.
And so this is an easement which, what's its purpose? And
There, we have underground utilities. See, before Christopher Drive was ever built, before these properties were subdivided, the town had an easement that went through like this. What the underground utilities actually do is they come from the Nahant Road through this property, 321, the front corner of 11 Christopher Drive, and then it goes under Christopher Drive. The underground utilities follow Christopher Drive all the way out to Wharf. The request came to us from the property owners of 5 Christopher Drive, asking to remove the easement. We did research to see if there was any need for it. We have no need for it. We have no future need for it. We would never want to put underground utilities there, especially where Christopher Drive is right here, where they exist currently. And so we did some research to figure out what would the process be. We were hoping that we could deal with it at the selectman level, but after speaking with legal, they felt it was necessary for us to get approval by town meeting vote. So we've included 3 Christopher Drive, 7 and 9 as well, because this whole portion of this easement is unnecessary.
why is the piece of that fronts Nahant Road necessary?
We do have underground utilities that come from Nahant Road through this portion, through
And
this
then
corner of 11, and then it
kick off
cuts
down
into Christopher Drive.
Yeah, okay. And why do the property owners want the easement removed?
Well, I think just because there's, I think any property owner would prefer not to have an easement on their deed, especially one that doesn't, isn't actually necessary. I think they probably just want to,
Build.
I don't know if it's build. I don't know,
That's
maybe.
the only reason you would need to release the easement.
Tony, does the town or the selectmen have any recommendation on this?
We're happy to, we were happy to work with the resident. We evaluated it. We have no need for it. We don't see any need to keep it. Even if it is with the idea for them to build, it's really not necessary for us to try to restrict that by keeping an unnecessary easement. As long, they have to follow zoning just like anybody else, so.
And this is
We-
a drainage easement, not a utility easement.
Right, for stormwater utility services.
All right. And what's in Christopher Drive is stormwater, probably among
Yes.
other things.
From Nahant Road. So it comes from Nahant Road goes to Christopher Drive, collects additional stormwater there, and goes to Wharf Street.
And
So they'll
that's
have
a
to,
good slope too. It's downward sloping from Nahant Road
right.
to Wharf Street.
And so they'll have to pay some sort of fair market value for the release of the easement. I don't know if the easement has any negative value on their property value, and removing it may provide an increase to the property value, which would benefit the town too. I gotta ask Sheila that question, but mostly it's they don't want it, we don't want it, we don't need it. We're happy to work with the residents. Get rid of it.
Tony, I expected that the property owner would have to pay for any legal fees associated, but you said pay a fair
Yes.
market value?
No, they would,
Question.
yeah, they would have to pay, they'd have to pay for, the fixing, like registry of the deeds and fixing that, the deed to eliminate it. They'd have to pay for those services. It
So
won't come
we
at a
have,
cost to the town.
it's at no cost to the town. We won't have any legal that we have to file deeds and modify deeds.
Correct. They'll have to cover those costs.
Then I'm gonna move to approve.
Second,
I'll
anyone?
second.
Was that you, Tim?
Yeah,
Okay, so motion has been made and seconded.
So while you're in discussion, this came to us from the owners of 5.
Yes.
When we did the research, we said it really expands to 3, 7, and 9. So we put it in there for now.
Yeah.
My next step is to reach out to 3, 7, and 9 and find out from those residents if they want to be included or not. If they don't, we can remove them at a later date. But I can't imagine they're going to have an issue.
And 3, 7, and 9 are the ones that are fronting on the straight part of Christopher Drive?
This is 3 here.
7 and 9.
This is 5. This is 7.
Okay, that's 9 there.
Well, cool program.
yeah, Tony, dumb question. Do I have access to this map with the rights
Yes,
of way?
Yeah, no, all you guys. So if you were to go to,
Standard GIS?
if you just go to nahant.org, are you seeing nahant.org here?
Yep.
Under helpful links, there's the GIS map and property data. And then it'll pop up this program.
I don't remember ever seeing it that has those nice red lines there.
Yep. Ton of
Okay.
different layers you can add. You can do a number of different things here. You can add there's a way to add different layers on this, like to show the zoning, to show the flood maps, all that stuff.
Oh, cool.
New toy. And we don't care about, well, I don't know what number it is, but it's keyed as 115 immediately to that little corner.
Yeah, no, we do. So we're not including that because the utility
Oh, it
easement
has to
comes
take
through
that
this.
route to get, yeah, okay, I'm with
Yeah,
you.
that's why we're not including that one. This area in town supposedly was an old was it a florist or some sort of like
I have had
Yeah,
a couple of people
greenhouse.
say it was greenhouses.
Yeah.
greenhouses? Yeah.
I've also had a couple of people in town say that it really increased flooding and drainage issues when they built all this. They took the greenhouses out.
I'm sure.
But all right, anyway, so we have a motion that has been made and seconded. Further discussion? No, roll call vote. Tim,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
Melanie,
Aye.
Bob votes aye, all unanimous vote in favor. Does anyone want to volunteer for this one?
I'll do it.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. Trying to knock off. So, Article 21, climate change preparedness. Oh, I see. We did vote in favor of this. We just we don't have an author yet. And I
Does
think
Deborah have anything up there? Because I know she's very interested in climate change issues.
good. I don't think she does. If she does, it's not much.
Why
So
don't you put her on it?
and we'll tell her that you volunteered her.
Yeah,
Just
I'll
give her
go.
several others.
Exactly. Um, I don't know why we don't have an author for the Charter Amendment Select Board. Omnibus paving. Oh, should we volunteer Deborah for paving too?
Sure.
Okay, just to ease things up.
What a friend.
She's in Brittany. This is what you get for going to France after Morocco.
After Morocco, exactly. Water and sewer enterprise, we were holding off because we wanted to see the numbers. I'm tempted to say, in view of the hour, it's 8:30. We've been at this for 2 hours now. Let's just do this. Oh, I'm not sharing yet, am I? Okay, hang
No.
on. Let me get this ready. You have stopped sharing, so I should be able to share. Okay, cover letter.
I knew I forgot something. I forgot to make the graph.
Okay, well, we'll get there in a sec. So this is kind of at least my suggestion for what the cover letter includes, right? So we begin with our usual cheery introductory paragraph. Julie was so good at writing those.
Oh yeah.
But we'll come up with a cheery introductory paragraph. Then we start with kind of the big picture or the theme for this year, which is basically kind of we're managing within the available funds. We say revenue growth is limited by Prop 2.5. Inflation is not limited by Prop 2.5. And then kind of parenthetically tease with more on this later in the letter. But further on this big picture theme, it's it's premature. We're not going to realize any new growth from the Coast Guard housing new construction this year. So no new property taxes, no new construction, no new property taxes from that this year. The revenue from the Coast Guard housing sales is earmarked. It's required to pay down the borrowing, and anything in excess of that is going to capital projects. So it's not really available for ongoing expenses. So what we're doing, what the town is doing, what Tony and Allison are doing, is we are managing within that set of constraints. We're controlling the operating expenses very tightly, and we are only tackling very select capital projects.
And before you guys go to print, you'll be able to say that all of the borrowing has been paid off. The original 1.86 and the 1.3.
If if we wanted to say something cheery, we are paying off a lot of bonds and borrowing this year. That's kind of cheery.
Yeah. Between CPC, between the Coast Guard housing.
Right.
Yeah.
And that starts us with a, very responsible, we're paying off. And then we move into, the managing within available funds. But we start off with something positive.
And
Yep.
build them up and then knock them down, right?
Yes. Or just say we want to do more. We need to do more.
Yeah.
We need to do more. Okay, so, all right, so that's our theme. Then I wanted to move on to one or two of the biggest challenges that are facing us. So challenge one are the state mandated housing bylaws. There are the ADUs, which is a subject for this town meeting. When the goal here is to protect the town operating within the state's requirements. And then mention that 3A is also out there. It's likely going to be a special town meeting later in the year, and kind of put everybody on notice. Watch for planning board led deliberations and public meetings. So it's not part of this town meeting, but we're trying to just give people advance warning that that's coming. And then close that paragraph with, all of this points to the need for a comprehensive examination and revision of the zoning bylaws.
Exactly.
Which gets reinforced later on with Tim's recommendation to the ADU bylaw. Okay. Second challenge, and this is, I'm not quite sure what it is. I thought we would do what I just called the complicated set of articles. So that's the one where there's one article where we're paying something off and no, we're not paying it off. We're repurposing it. Tony,
Article 6,
yeah,
rescinding a free cash and retain earning appropriation from last year.
whoops, I didn't want to do that.
Or we're altering the funding mechanism.
Well, okay, but I think what we want to do though is what's the goal? What's the end we're trying to come to?
To have that money to use.
For what?
That money is partly, isn't it going to
Well, I would,
library?
yes, by rescinding it, it gives us the ability to fund the library and the DPW truck.
Right.
But I would start with by saying that by using this alternative funding source of MWRA borrowing, it allows us to accomplish the meter project quicker and at no cost to the town, and helps us advance our lead service line inventory requirement.
What
They
does
no cost to the town.
what does that have to do with Article 6?
Well, Article 6, we're rescinding an appropriation that was made last year to fund phase 1 of a 3-year phase project of a meter replacement project. We now are using MWRA borrowing to do that project in 1 year. It's a 0 interest loan program,
Oh, okay.
and it allows us to do the project faster. And then there's this other complicated layer of how it's going to help us advance along the lines of the lead service line inventory requirement. So regardless of whether it's rescinded, we're changing our funding source and our strategy towards completing the meter project to the benefit of the town. By doing that, it allows us to repurpose the funds that under the previous strategy towards these other needs that we don't otherwise have a funding source for in the current year.
So this touches back to that second paragraph of managing with available funds.
Yes.
So we're reallocating funds to take advantage of the zero interest loans, and the reallocated funds to be used for library and the DPW truck.
And for the library, that's for operations, correct? Not capital?
No, that is capital.
That's capital.
And the
Okay.
remaining amount will be deposited back into the water sewer enterprise retained earnings account.
This is Article 6, which Article 6 releases the funds. I'll fix words later, and then I can look up the article numbers for the library and DPW truck. Are there other articles that bear mentioning specifically in the letter, or would you prefer something different than those two that I've already got?
Are you asking me or are you asking?
I'm asking anyone that cares to comment. I'm taking,
With the approach you've taken.
I'm taking, thank you, Melanie. Otherwise, I would say silence gives
Do you
consent.
want to reference any of the CPC articles?
Yes, you're awesome. So the next paragraph was going to be, yeah, the bright spot is CPC. So that's letting us do the library. What's the next biggest one in there?
I gotta pull it up.
Life saving station roof is 150. Um,
It's just one playground. There you go.
So anyway, so that would be sort of a bright spot, right? Not, well, no, it is a bright spot. That's community preservation, which is letting us do these more
I think open,
discretionary kinds of efforts. Go ahead, Tony.
you could add the open space with the Bailey's Hill
Yeah,
stuff.
Bailey's Hill.
I mean, that one people can actually relate to. They've seen a lot of the work that's been completed so far.
I would take housing out maybe and just have it be the playground and Bailey's Hill. They fit nicely and people will see them.
and library and life saving station are iconic properties.
Right,
And
exactly.
then playground of Bailey's Hill are lifestyle.
Yes.
Okay. All right, then we speak to outlook into the future. So this is delivering the early message that there is an override likely.
I would add the word necessary there.
And it would be next year. Whoops. And then the reason is revenues capped at 2.5, inflation has been running higher, COVID is over, and all of that catches up with us next year. we cannot continue in this situation without cutting services or an override. And then we would include the graphic. I've added this gray line down at the bottom, which is inflation. That's just I pulled CPI data to get that. And then on that cheery note, we close with, we hope to see you all at town meeting, and boom. Does that sound reasonable? And if so, I will by next week have turned this into sentences and paragraphs.
I'll volunteer an extra set of eyes to you if once you put them into sentences. I'm happy to review it with you, Bob, and
Okay. Well,
provide input.
we'll all review it together next week. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'll give you first dibs.
Bob, in Outlook, I would probably also add employee benefits are increasing because that's something that
Yeah.
everyone sees in their own paycheck and they can relate to.
That's very important, Melanie. Thank you. That's a big one. And the healthcare particularly, wow. You want to say especially healthcare.
Yeah. The other thing too is catches up next year cannot continue without cuts to services or I don't know what the exact language is. That's why I was saying I'll take a look at it with you, but the other big piece of it is, you know, competing or attempting to, within our limitations, competing with neighboring communities to retain talented employees and staff.
Yeah, that's nicely put.
Yes.
That's fire and police and other things.
Can you say that
Cool.
again or write it in an email? Either one.
Competition for staff with neighboring communities.
Competing with neighboring communities.
Or retention of talent in human
Right.
resources, maybe.
Talent's a good word.
Yep.
To retain talent.
Yep.
Yep.
It's better to just say it right out of the gate because you know how those override conversations go.
Yeah.
Yep.
And people will see healthcare and they know.
I think we want
and then really not to go like on our soapbox rant here, but really this year, because of those limitations in revenues and the increases in expenses, for the first time in 7 years, we're unable to stick to what has been our financial priorities of investing in stabilization or paying more than what we have to pay in debt. We haven't been able to do those priorities this year because we need that money to cover those other costs. So it also will allow us to continue those financial priorities.
Of course, we've said in the cheery paragraph up front that we have been doing.
yes.
You didn't notice me rolling my eyes on that part.
Well,
Which part? The cheery part?
No, the paying down debt. Well, yeah, but we borrowed more.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, that's going to happen. That comes with the business, but paying down above and beyond what is owed, paying down the principal amount you know, obviously is a priority and a benefit. Unfortunately, we're unable to do it. And I think that that's something that we want to try and stick with. We've been able, I mean, to accomplish what we've been able to accomplish in the last 6 years on a $600,000 general override is pretty impressive. So that's on the cheery side. On the outlook side, but this year it's, you know, we can't do it because expenses, expenses have finally caught up.
Yep.
So unless we increase revenues, it's going to keep going in that trend. We're trying to reverse that trend once again.
Yep.
Time has come.
Right. The walrus said.
I don't know if it bears reminding in a understandable way, but we're really at the wrong end of economies of scale for running a town at all. Our head count and our total revenue relative to fixed costs is very, very difficult. And the fact that we're in such good shape is a tribute to our leadership. And I don't know, I just want to have people kind of get an understanding that because we are a tiny town, we still need a fire department and a police department and a school and a highway department. And we have all these entities that must exist because we're a town, but because we are so small, we're very much in an ongoing struggle. And I really don't know a good way to articulate that other than a lengthy discussion of economies of scale that would bore everyone to sleep.
Because we're so small, and also our demographics, which is we're aging.
Speak for yourself.
For aging.
Some of us are aging. I am.
You know, it may just be me, but looking at that graphic, I'd really love to see it go back closer to 10 years than just the 3 or 4.
That's an Allison question. I
Yes.
don't even know if it's feasible, Allison, much less do you have time.
I think it's feasible.
Because I think
I can go back to 2018 because that's what our software goes back to. I could do that.
That would, yeah, that would be awesome, actually.
it would be really good to see the longer term trend.
Well, I can do that.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Thank you.
Seriously, thank you. All right. Then the last topic, and I promise we will adjourn after this, is just kind of basic logistics of how this is going to work. Tony, Allison, is there someone at Town Hall that will be compiling this? And who and how do we get stuff to them and all that?
Yeah, so it's me.
All right, Allison.
It's Allison, but we do ask that one of you.
I usually take the lead on compiling it.
You do.
Okay.
I was jumping in, and we do ask that one. In the past, it was Julie Tarmy that helped. Basically work with Allison to make sure that it's in line with how you guys envision it to be. It'd be good to have someone like that. We can schedule some time with them to make sure that it gets done correctly.
It's more towards like the end of the process, like right before it goes to print. I'm sorry, am I freezing? My computer keeps freezing.
No.
But I do a draft it just for somebody to look at it, before it goes to print. That's where I really need the input from someone from the committee.
Okay. So, and we go to print on the 18th, Friday the 18th.
Yes.
I would be happy to do this, except I'm going to be out of town the next 2 weeks. I will be free in the evening, which kind of sucks. Actually, when you're out of town, free in the evening sometimes is a godsend to have
Yeah.
something like this to,
To do what part?
well, I don't know, that's to be the second set of eyes that Allison's asking for.
Oh, but the next 2 weeks, so really, really that comes into what Allison's referring to comes into that is that final week.
Yeah, but I'm out.
The week of the 15th. Oh, okay.
There. Is it the Allison, can we work it if can this be done like through emails and
Yeah, I've never, like, Julie never came in person, and I think I worked with Barbara last year.
You did.
It's always been done via email. Mhm.
okay.
So yeah, once I have, your cover letter and your draft,
Uh-oh, you just froze in the word.
I have a bunch of schedules. Sorry, my connection's so unstable tonight. Can you hear me?
Try
Yeah.
turning off your screen.
The
video.
video?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, once I get the cover letter and your recommendations, and then I usually put together some schedules for the end of it and combine it all. I mean, that's the big portion of the book. So,
You did a phenomenal job.
yeah,
And
it's more just getting, that your cover letter and your draft recommendations into a document, is the biggest part, because you're kind of working on that, until the end.
Yeah. All right.
do you
So
need our, Bob, do you need our do you need our recommendations for next week?
yes,
So
if
we've
not
got it.
sooner. So what
Yeah.
what I would suggest is for all the articles that you're assigned to, get your recommendations um, written as soon as possible and send them out, copying the entire committee and Allison. If, and then best of all possible worlds, if we've kind of got them compiled together into a complete document, we can do a read of it next week.
Yeah, next week is the
And
fly spec.
next week is the fly spec?
It's the read where we look at every single
Yes.
little comma and
Yeah, right. That's next week and the following week. So we'll
Yep.
we'll do as much of that as we can. Worst case, we'll be looking at individual drafts from people. Best case, we'll be looking at a compiled draft of the entire document that we can edit kind of on the fly.
I
Well,
would
I'm glad to hear that we
I-
can share them all around, because I'm gonna miss next week, but I work very well by email.
Okay, we do have to be careful about not deliberating over email. We have to do deliberation and wordsmithing and stuff like that in a public meeting.
but Tim can provide his opinion to one of you
Yes,
through
exactly.
email, and that person can't share Tim's opinion with others. But he can relay to one of you, and then when you get into the public meeting, you can share
Right.
Tim's opinion.
Exactly. So Tim, if you want to send whatever commentary you choose to make to me,
Like I did yesterday.
yep, like you did yesterday. And I will do my best Tim Bell impersonation during the meeting.
but you want the rest of us to write up our final recommendations and send those to everybody, right?
Yeah, Tony,
No, I would just send them.
yeah, you're
I would
right.
just, I would just send them to one person. If you all want to individually send them to Bob or someone else, and then compile them and discuss them in the public meeting.
Yeah,
Well, I would think that we could share the draft and all comments happen at the meeting.
No,
Can't even do that.
can't even do that. Not to the group.
can the individual authors send it both to me and to Allison, so Allison can start compiling? As long as she doesn't share it with the rest of the committee?
Yeah.
So let's do that then. When you're done with your sections, send them to me, send them to and copy Allison.
This means the first time I'm going to be able to see anybody else's recommendations is after next week's meeting.
Yes. Yes. And that's not that's open
That's
meeting.
less
Yeah,
than
that's I agree. That's the open meeting law,
Um,
unfortunately.
Well, I think when you meet next week, decisions you make during the meeting, you can share the result of that to
Yes.
Tim.
Right.
I would, and you're gonna hate this, but I
Almost like it would be worth scheduling a meeting for like Monday or Tuesday for 5 minutes to share the documents with each other so that we have a chance to review before the meeting on Thursday.
I was gonna suggest, and I was saying you're gonna hate this, but I think for the next 2 weeks, you really should schedule, you should
Yeah.
just plan to meet Tuesday, Thursday, both weeks. Get them scheduled. If you don't need them, you know, that's fine, but get them on the
Yep.
calendar.
Exactly. All right. So I'm going to post a meeting for Tuesday night and Thursday night next week, Tuesday night and Thursday night the following week. Tuesday of next week, may literally be like traveling at the time of the meeting. So
But it becomes the forum for the open share.
it becomes what?
The forum for the open share so that we can all share with each other our drafts.
Right. Yes. But we do need somebody to kind of run the meeting.
Yeah, you guys should vote now to appoint an interim chair for that meeting.
Yeah,
Wait a minute,
exactly.
we're, just so I get it down, we're meeting Tuesday, the 8th?
Tuesday the 8th and Tuesday the 15th. Tuesday the
Wait.
8th may be an extremely short meeting just so that we're able to share content in in advance of the regular Thursday meeting. And I'm going to abstain from the discussion of who wants to be the interim chair. But what I would suggest is someone make a motion for someone to be the interim chair and then you vote on it.
Well, I will fall on the sword because I can't be at the Thursday meeting. I'll offer if nobody else wants to.
Oh, Tim, that would be
Do it
great.
for the 8th.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Tim, can you put that? No, you can't nominate yourself, I guess.
I nominate Tim.
Is there a second? Roll call vote. Barbara,
I,
Dan,
Aye.
Melanie,
Aye.
Tim.
Nay?
okay,
I,
Okay. Congratulations, sir.
So plan for the 8th, the 10th, the 15th, and the 17th.
correct.
And then you have, so the one other thing that you should add to your, whether you want to or not, but I don't know if you guys have paid attention to the planning board process. So the planning board has an article on the ADUs before you. They are should finish their recommendation for that article on Tuesday the 8th, and then send that over to you to be included in the book.
Good.
There's also some changes to the article from based on comments that we received from the Attorney General's office that they are going to, we're working with legal to formulate what those floor amendments are going to look like and include those in the recommendation.
Okay, but
I
has
don't know if you guys are going to want to hear
I've
from.
been in touch with Sheila on that.
has the article itself changed?
No. But the floor amendments, we've drafted a track change version to the article to show what the floor amendments are going to represent.
Like, okay, because we did vote last week to approve that article, which is now 25.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have to re-vote it because the article itself remains unchanged.
Yes, and even the floor amendments do not change any of the intent, really, except, well, there's one small one, but it holds true to what you've already voted on. The only small change intention is related to short-term rentals.
Yep. So
So
that's
the
a treat.
Yeah, so it said the ADU, the protected ADU, could not be rented for less than 3 months. The Attorney General's office suggested that time frame be consistent with short-term rental definition. So we've made that, which means 28 days or less. And then we added language that the protected ADU and the principal dwelling on the parcel of the protected ADU cannot be used for short-term rental. It's still the same intent, is that this is not to promote short-term rental activity.
So-
It's just extended it to the principal dwelling as well.
But what that does do is if I had my own house and I wanted to do short-term rentals while I was away, which I think I'm allowed to do. If I add an ADU, then I won't be able to do it on either.
Correct.
Interesting. Okay.
Tony, will we be able to entertain floor amendments that deal with building code for both primary residence and the ADU?
The dimensional requirements are very strict in the state law and regulations.
I don't mean just dimensional requirements.
I think
I mean things like standards for exterior clapboarding or shingles, or exposed steel siding on a container, or things like full depth foundations, things that are actually part of the building code, or in our case, not. Can those be included if they are also apply to the primary residence?
I think I'd have to see the proposal to give you a good answer. Obviously, you can't change building code. But some of the stuff you're talking about is more of a, not really code, but a preference of appearance, which can be done through zoning.
but I think that would be a zoning change would be beyond the scope of that article.
Yeah, I think I'd have to see it, because again, the law is very strict about not adding more restrictions than that of the most permissive for the principal dwelling in that district.
I think separate from that law, what Dan is suggesting is like a change to the zoning bylaw that is beyond the scope of what the article is about ADUs. And Dan's suggesting a change to the overall zoning bylaw for all dwellings.
I think that would be too far removed from the article, because what the article is doing is it's creating a new section in the in the zoning bylaw specific to ADUs, and it's amending an existing section, the table of use chart. It doesn't open the door to the rest of the zoning, so I think something like that would be out of order. That's a question for legal. Again, I'd like to see the language. We'd have to check with legal and the moderator and understand whether it's an acceptable floor amendment or not. My guess is no. If we were opening the door to the entire zoning bylaw, then maybe, but this isn't doing that. This is adding a new section and then just changing. The only thing that's existing that's being amended is the table of use chart.
Well, perhaps it should be its own article. We've discussed, and Peter Barber had mentioned last week that it's been over a decade since the baseline building code has been updated, and we don't want to rush through it. But at the same time, there is other towns in the city in the Commonwealth that have more restrictive building codes that we could simply appropriate theirs.
And Dan, we are recommending this year that get revisited.
Yeah, and that's not really the code. Code is different. We actually have updated our code. We've adopted the stretch energy code. Our code is about as restrictive as it can. What you're talking about is zoning restrictions, not code. And that's something that can be revisited in the future, but any zoning change requires by law a process of an article approved by the selectmen, sent to the planning board for a public hearing process, for a recommendation prior to town meeting. It's very the state law is very strict about the process by which you amend zoning. So something like that, something new like that would have to, I think would have to go through that type of process.
Well, are these construction standards part of zoning, or for instance, whatever says that you can't use aluminum wiring or use cloth insulators like we have at the library?
That sounds more like a code thing. I don't know if the current code allows for that type of stuff anyways. That might already be covered under current code.
I think most of it would be, but there would certainly be other higher bars to that we'd want anyway. I think the ADUs are the reminder. How does this process going? Do you see this process unfolding, Tim Bell?
So there's going to be the ADU article, and the FinCom is recommending at this town meeting that a future town meeting take up, or the town process take up the zoning bylaw, to update the zoning bylaw. We're saying that the zoning bylaw needs to be updated, but we can't update it at this town meeting. We can only implore those whose responsibility it is to do it to take it up.
Well, is zoning in fact enough, or does it also need to be construction standards? Which sounds like, from Tony, as though that we're dealing with two different sets of regulations.
Yeah, construction standards are typically about safety, where zoning is more about the nature of our community, how big houses can be, what they have to look like, what they can't look like. and that kind of stuff. And I think, Dan, you expressed more on what houses should look like, and that's
Okay.
definitely zoning.
Um, this is obviously a longer, much more complicated discussion.
Yes. And
I'm fading.
I know, there are no members of the public here, so there's no point in a public forum or no capability for a public forum. So at this point,
I mean, it's been a tough day. I just have to say that. I'm sorry, but I'm fading.
I think a motion to adjourn is in order. I will do my best to see you all next Tuesday, and if not, good luck.
So, Bob, are you gonna file the public notice tomorrow, or is
Yes.
Tim? Okay,
No, I'll notice all the meetings.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Melanie,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
and Bob says aye, so unanimous vote in favor. We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
And thank you for all the work that lies ahead.
Thank you
Yeah.
all.
Have a good
Thank
evening.
you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye. Good night.